I will continue to say what I've been saying since we lost to the Chiefs in the playoffs. The Jags need a pass rusher to complement Josh Allen. And if we get that, we can 100% compete for the 1 seed and represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. I've been saying it since January of this year, last season. Which brings me to our guest, John Shipley, Jags beat reporter for the Jaguar Report over at SI.com. And he also hosts the Jaguars Report podcast. John, good evening.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Doing well.
Doing good, John. How you doing?
Hey.
Hey, thanks for having me on, guys. Appreciate it.
I want to know if you see it the same. We're either, if we make a move before the trade deadline, we're either looking for a star that could put us over the edge and make that Super Bowl, make that be like Super Bowl favorites or at least contenders, be a huge difference maker. Or we're looking for someone to replace Arden Key's production from last season because the front office may have overlooked how important that rotational player may have been. Hold on.
That's not talking.
Hey, John, start over real quick. My phone disconnected from Bluetooth, but you're here now.
Okay, sweet. No, the architect wouldn't have overlooked Arden Key, man. That's not in Salty Ball's DNA. No, I think it's a little bit of both. I think like when you look at their pass rush, like I know internally their argument all summer was like, okay, if we're bringing a guy for pass rush, where's he going to play? When's he going to play? Because we have Trayvon, you have Josh Allen, etc. They, for some reason, would keep bringing up Chase on in those arguments.
Yeah.
Now you're starting to see Smoot's name a little bit, but man, there's still so many snaps out there that can be divided for a pass rusher. Like Trayvon and Josh Allen are both top 10 in like snaps among like all edge guys right now, and you can basically eliminate Chase on snaps and cut Smoot in half, give Walker a little bit of a break, and I think you're golden. So I think it could be both of those things. I really think that if you just add one guy to give some juice to that nickel package, let them potentially move Trayvon around a little bit more and just overall have more versatility to where when you pull Trayvon off the field, you're not putting Chase on it basically at all. I think like that alone, like you don't, in my opinion, you don't need like a blue chip guy. You don't need Chase Young or Danielle Hunter to put this defense over the top. I mean, it's already a top 10 defense by pretty much every metric. And they've done that with literally like one bona fide pass rusher on the entire roster. So I think if you can even just get a solid pass rusher, like a guy who can maybe even be like a designated pass rusher, somebody who can get maybe 5-6 sacks over the second half of the season, and just be somebody to help Trayvon basically move around more and get a more productive like nickel defensive line, I think you're golden. But on the other hand, if they do have a chance to get that kind of guy, like a Chase Young, a Danielle Hunter type, I think like if you have that chance, you have to go for it because the window is right now.
Right.
Yeah. Like the AFC, everybody talked about it all offseason. Me too, about being, one of the best like places the conference has ever been, just in terms of high quality teams. It has not looked that good this year. It's a wide open AFC, so I think they can definitely make things happen.
So if we did go after the Chase Young Danielle Hunter looks, like you said in your article, a little bit less likely now, especially since the Vikings won. That would require more of a change and move around at the D-line than just getting a rotational guy, right?
Yeah, I think so. And that's why I honestly think a rotational guy, a guy like Josh Uche with New England, I might have butchered his name. Apologies if I did. Or Carl Lawson with the Jets. I think just looking at it from a GM's perspective. So, rest in peace, Bo Jackson, one of the best Jags Twitter accounts ever. He, back in the day, put it really well to me. It's like GMs, their job is only a little bit about winning football games, and it's a lot about building job security. So, and that doesn't go just for Trent Baalke. That goes for literally 32 GMs out of 32. So if you're a GM, you can make a case to your owner a lot better that you're valuable if you're getting a guy to complement Trayvon as opposed to getting a guy like Hunter or Young and kind of basically admitting quietly, okay, maybe we made a mistake with this pick.
Yeah. How have the Jaguars put together a top 10 defense this year with one pass rusher?
It's been Mike Caldwell deserves his flowers. I really didn't know if, not to say if he had it in him as a coordinator. I there were only so many defensive coordinators in the NFL who were difference makers, and I wasn't sure if he could be one of those guys or if he was more of a kind of average type coordinator. But he's done it extremely well this year with what he has. I mean, a big part of it is Josh Allen is obviously playing the best football of his career. I think if you got a different version of Josh Allen from years past in this defense, it probably wouldn't work as well. But I mean, just up and down the board, he's asking guys to do things that they do well. There's not many guys you can look at the defense outside of Trayvon, which seems more like an organizational thing than anything else, who are playing out of position. I mean, they have Tyson and Darius on the outside where both belong, even though both have played slot before. They run a lot of zone. They're one of the highest zone coverage teams in the league. They run some of the least man coverage in the entire league. And I mean, that's what their cornerbacks are best at. That's what, Trey Herndon, for, pretty much every time you've ever seen him compete on a rep, it feels like it's man coverage and a guy's just running by him. Well, they don't ask him to do that much. They ask him to do the things he does well. So I think he definitely deserves a lot of credit, basically for knowing his players and not trying to fit, square pegs and round holes. And he's also done, a lot of fun stuff schematically, a lot of the blitzes and pressure packages he has. You saw Fourier and Herndon, with some nice blitzes against New Orleans. I think that's a way you can kind of offset not having a lot of juice in terms of pass rush. You kind of scheme up pressure. And also, his philosophy in general. We're in an NFL world where, there were a bunch of Brandon Staley's who are, kind of forgetting about first and second down and trying to focus on third down, whereas Mike Caldwell and some of the other, top defenses right now, they're focusing on first and second down, just philosophy-wise, and focusing on stopping the run to create advantageous pass rush situations. So I think you put all that together, and he's had a hell of a year.
Yeah. What's up, John? Eric here. I'm not much of an X's and O's guys, but even I can see when a guy like Derek Carr has 10 seconds to throw in the pocket. Do you think Mike Caldwell is in the offices just begging for them to trade for another pass rusher right now?
So I had said, I told my guy Gus Lowe, a few days before the game, that the Saints game was the game to determine, their level of, I wouldn't say panic, but their level of, how much action you need to take at the trade deadline. If they couldn't get pressure against that Saints line, then you need to, hurry up and make a move. And I thought it summed up their pass rush perfectly well. It was literally Josh Allen putting the entire pass rush on his back. I think they had 19 pressures or something, and he had 11 of them, and Fourier had another 4. So it definitely was a game where I think you come out of it even with the win and even with Allen's performance, and you're okay, this shows me that some kind of move needs to be made. Because I mean, Cam Irving, he's one of those tackles who's always in highlight clips for pass rushers, and there wasn't a single one on Thursday night.
Not at all.
Jack?
Yeah, I got a question. Jack here. Another voice coming at you. When I guess I got 2 questions. When I think of the Jags, I guess weaknesses that I'd look to improve at the deadline, offensive line comes to mind. It's kind of put in a tough spot because, I mean, I can't think of the last time an O lineman or a top one, or that just feels like a tough position to acquire through the deadline. Do you think they possibly look at someone? And I know O line depth is kind of suffering across the league, so it feels like they're in a tough spot there. But do you think there's any potential candidates out there to acquire?
Yeah, I think there's a couple guys. Mike Aquinu with Patriots. He's played left guard, right guard, and right tackle. I would have said a week ago he's probably readily available because they've kind of bounced him around. He hasn't been an every week starter, but like their worst position on their line's in right tackle. He filled in there in week 7 and had a really good game. So maybe he's not as available as he used to be.
Mm-hmm.
Cody Whitehair in Chicago. He's played left guard. He's played right guard. He's played center. He hasn't played it very well, but he's played it. So he's another guy who I think would make sense. He fits their system. The only thing is he's due like $10 million next year. So you would obviously have to rework the contract. But I think like in terms of like anything other than pass rusher at the deadline, I think offensive line is what they need to look at. Because I know you're going to get Walker Little back eventually, and he's more likely than not a very good left guard. But like left guard's been a revolving door for them this year. It seems obvious like they don't think Ben Barch is really a solution there. And then Brandon Sheriff, probably the toughest dude in the team, but I'm not sure he could pass TSA with his ankles right now. Like there's like dude is literally being held together at this point. So for as tough as he is, you have to factor in the chance of him potentially missing games at some point this year. So I would definitely, if I was them, try to make some kind of move happen for a guard, and not like a Cole Van Lannon type move, because I guarantee you they thought that was going to be something that could be substantial, but like an actual dude who could play.
You mentioned, O-line would be the other position group you look for outside a pass rusher. I was just looking at like the Jags defense as a whole compared to others in the league. The Jags pass defense is 31st in terms of yards. Do you think they look for someone in the secondary, or do you think adding a better pass rusher would help mitigate those yards allowed?
It's because we're always up by 20 points, Jack. The teams are chasing points.
It's new days in Jackson. I literally think that's it, and I think that's the first time you can say that in franchise history. Because
right,
you're right. Like they are giving up like a good chunk of yardage in the passing game, but they're not giving them up in big moments. Like they're still really efficient, on third downs mostly, and like most of the plays are like big shot plays. Like you would never guess it from watching that game, but Gardner Minshew had 3 passes completed that game, like 40 plus yards. And just little plays like that, like Tank Dell being a blown coverage merchant in week 3, 2 different blown coverages amounting to like 110 passing yards. It's just little plays like that. Stephon Diggs had like a 50-yard catch. I just think like some of these explosive catches have really stacked up for them. I think they like their corner, their cornerback room. Their secondary has been really good all year. The biggest issue they've had with cornerback is literally all their backups have been like basically like falling off, like flies weekly. Like somebody's getting put on IR each week, but they're getting Greg Jr. back soon. Christian Braswell will probably be back a little bit after the bye. I think that they're comfortable with their quarterback room right now.
Can you give us give us the names from your article? Who would be the splash guys if Balky tried to swing for the fences? And then give us your maybe your rotational guys.
Obviously, Danielle Hunter is their first splash. He I think leads the NFL in sacks right now. He hasn't been quite as good this year as the sack numbers indicate, but he's an established Pro Bowl guy. He turns 29, I think, sometime this week, so he is nearing 30 a little bit. And then you have to factor in that you're going to have to pay him after this year. And with the Vikings winning some games recently, like they're on a 2-game win, the Fighting Justice Mosquitoes in Green Bay this week, I think overall, they're probably trending to be a team that's not really selling. So I'm not sure how likely a Hunter deal is, but if you want to go for like a home run, I think it's Chase Young. I would give up a first for Chase Young, because I don't think there's anybody you can pick in the late 20s where the Jags are going to pick who is better than who's better than Chase Young right now. Like Chase Young, as good as Josh Allen has been this year, Chase Young has better pressure and win rate numbers and everything like that. And that's not a knock on Allen. That's just Chase Young has been crazy good this year. It's just for him, bad luck. The 1 year he's turning it up, the Commanders are having one of their worst seasons in the last couple of years. So I think he'd be a home run. In terms of rotational guys, I think Josh Uche, Carl Lawson, neither one of them is really a 3-down player. Uche pretty much never plays rundowns for the Patriots. He's kind of a pure fastball pitcher off the edge on third down, which I think would make a lot of sense for the Jaguars and what they want. And then Carl Lawson honestly reminds me a little bit of Arden Key. He can line up inside, he can line up outside. he's not even a bad player. He's just the Jets have spent 2 first-round picks on defensive ends in the last 2 years, and again, it goes back to the GM and job security thing. You can't be having a guy playing over your first-round picks because then what are you going to say to your owner?
Right. I didn't see Montez Sweat on your article, but I saw a lot of talk about him on Twitter. What was your thinking with him?
So I think it seems like the consensus from the Washington beat guys I follow is that if they were good to trade one of the two, it'd probably be Young, just because Sweat is a more, I guess you could say, proven and consistent player. He hasn't had as many injury issues in the past. He's seen more as like a building block there than Young is. And you can probably, if you're Washington, you can probably get more for Young than you could for Sweat. Sweat's a good player too. He had a really good game against the Jaguars in Week 1 last year. It's just, I think he'd be hitting like a solid double, whereas opposed to Chase Young, I think is hitting home run.
Yeah. Second to last question for me. Do you think a move is made?
I'm going to say yes.
Whoa.
Because
nice. Thank God.
See, I'm wrong most of the time when I make
Change your mind. Go.
I want to take that back. I feel like they know that like this is our window. This is the time where the AFC is wide open. If we have
he did the Ridley thing.
Exactly, and the Ridley thing was for 2023 too. So it like shows you like they're willing to go in and make big moves. Like I think a move for a guy like a rotational guy is way more likely. Like I don't think a Hunter trade happens, and I'm pretty sure a Chase Young trade wouldn't happen. But I do think that they bring in somebody because I don't think you can go into the trade deadline with their current setup.
Well, if they did, then we just have to hope that they unleash Yasir Abdullah for once, because he's been inactive a few weeks now.
Hey, man, he's got the same amount of pressures as Chase on this year, and he has like 60 fewer pass reps.
Oh, wow.
Yikes.
I would just like to see more of him, because he was a beast in preseason, which I know doesn't mean nothing, but like he looks like he's got it there in terms of the pass rush game.
No, for sure. And he definitely brings some juice. Like he has like 1 rep a game where you're like, okay, this guy has something. It seems like this staff, especially, and this is like even going back, like they just basically don't trust rookies to the point where they would trust Chase on with like his 15 snaps or whatever a game more than they would trust a guy who's clearly outplaying him, just because Chase on maybe knows a little bit more what's going on.
Crazy.
Okay, last question, and I'm going to make you make another prediction. Do you think Jags-Niners gets flexed?
And the entire country can see Brock Purdy continue to turn into a pumpkin. Mike Caldwell will have Kyle Shanahan and the full Nelson on prime television. You can put that out there.
It cut out when you gave your answer, but I assume you said you think so?
Yeah, no, I think so. I think just the way that the Jaguars are rolling right now,
wow.
I have no idea who the 49ers play next week, but I would assume they pick it up some. But I think you'll be on prime television. The Bengals?
Wow.
I don't know, man. Brock Purdy versus handsome Brock Purdy. I don't know, man.
Damn, that's a great comparison.
I'll do what I can.
All right. Appreciate you taking the time. Enjoy the rest of your night. Hopefully we'll have you on again. First time.
Hey, I appreciate you guys. I've been listening a while. Happy to be on.